right, y'all. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. And what do you know? The Mets make a couple trades. But before we get into all that, all the excitement that now comes with the Mets, subscribe to the channel, like this video, let me know how you're feeling. I'm feeling great. I'm ready for the season. Let's start the season tomorrow. I can't wait for spring training to start. We're a couple weeks away from the pitchers and catchers reporting, and it's just exciting time. So I don't know if you've been on the podcast. 2 years ago, we were talking about Robert, and he's a guy that I thought would be 2 years ago would be a good fit for us. And what do you know? 2 years later, obviously we were interested in him at the trade deadline. Chicago didn't want to play ball, and so here we are. We had to wait 6 months to get Robert on the team. And the reason I wanted Robert 2 years ago was because he is a potential or was a potential superstar. I don't want to give him that mantle anymore because of the last two seasons. But this is a guy that is an elite defender and is a guy that you want to give a chance to because he has the upside to be a really, really good player. And here he comes, mainly to play defense and give us a little bit better version than Tyrone Taylor. Obviously, we want a little bit better than that, but he's a guy that can play defense better than Tyrone Taylor at center. And he's a guy that can give you more power than Tyrone Taylor. And he's a guy that hits lefties better than Tyrone Taylor. So, and it's a 1 year risk. If he doesn't pan out, all we got to do is buy him out and not get the option for next year. And so it's a 1 year risk. And if he doesn't pan out, AJ Ewing is is waiting in the wings, right? To potentially take over. And this also allows us, a lot of the times that we were talking this off season, we were talking about potentially Carson Benj playing center field, and I never believed that. I always thought Stearns was going to bring in a center fielder because I think he believes a lot in Carson Benj, and I don't think he wanted to put that extra pressure on Carson Benj to produce when he's a guy that is going to be a rookie, right? And you don't want to put that extra pressure if you don't have to. And obviously they didn't have to. They could have, went with Carson Benj and picked up another fielder. Obviously, they were going to do that when they were trying to go after Kyle Tucker. So, but the difference is that him playing center field, if you get a Kyle Tucker, the pressure wouldn't have been on him because nobody would have been looking at Carson Benj. They would have been focused more on Kyle Tucker's performance. So that pressure wouldn't have been there if Kyle Tucker would have been with the Mets. But the fact that Carson Benj was talked about so much, or not so much, but mentioned by Stearns as being given a shot to play, to earn a spot, that pressure by the fan base was going to be there and was going to be given to him. But I am glad that now Carson Benj is playing in left field, right? I believe wholeheartedly that he's going to make the team and have Robert is going to get a lot of leeway at center. He's going to play a lot. He's got to prove that he can't play before they they remove him. So, especially now that we don't have Jet Williams, and we'll get to that in a second. But it's one of those things where you wanted a center fielder, and this guy has a lot of potential. So everybody's gonna say, "Well, he sucked the last couple of years," and that is true. But I look back at the trade deadline. Whispers of him potentially being traded out of Chicago, and all of a sudden, he had a burst of energy. You know, playing for a franchise like the White Sox, after the last couple seasons where they literally gave up on, you know, and got the record for being the worst team and ever. I don't know where your motivation is when it comes to something like that. So I kind of give him. I don't want to say I give him a pass, but I kind of want to like rethink that maybe he wasn't motivated. And what does that say? You know, those are question marks on their own, right? Those are question marks. For, you know, if a guy doesn't have the motivation to play, what does that say about him? And sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's not, because Acuna, the guy he got traded for, if you might remember, what was it, last year? Last year that it came out? I can't remember when it came out, but I think it was Lindor that said that he played like he wasn't motivated, that he wants to be in the at the show, right? He wants the big lights when he was struggling down in AAA. I think that was 2 years ago when he said that, because last year he wasn't in AAA. So, you know, I think that's what Lindor said about him. So that is not true with him. I mean, that was not true with him in the sense that the bright lights came. He was given a shot in April of last year to potentially take the spot away from, you know, from Beatty at second base, and he did it. And so, so that's not always true. And I'm gonna take the sample size that Luis Robert or Robert, like he likes to be called. I'm gonna take that sample. You want to. Sorry about that. We had technical issues over here, but looks like we're back, and so I really apologize about that. But going back to Luis Robert, you know, he's a guy that I'm going to trust that July sample size, and that July sample size looked like a guy that put in a lineup like ours right now is going to put up some numbers. He's a guy that's going to read about any replacements at the trade deadline, right? So, because I think right now he's going to get a lot of leeway. He's going to get at least till June to produce, and so so let's see what happens. And this is a guy that I wanted. So, but this lineup is looking pretty good, I think. And I know some people are saying that we need another piece. You know, it's possible that we get another piece, because at the end of the day, right now I don't know. Right now, the bench player is Mark Vientos, because we picked up Brujan as our super utility guy behind Brett Beatty. And so I doubt that Mark Vientos is going to be a primary bench player. That just seems weird to me. I don't know about you, but it just doesn't seem right. So I think that Mark Vientos or Brett Beatty, it could be either or, but I think they want to keep Brett Beatty. But I don't think the Mets are done. I think there's one more move coming. because I don't think there's room for on this roster for both Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos. So, but more on that in a little bit. Let's get to the second trade and even the bigger trade of the week. Peralta. This is the guy that we've been talking about all off season long, right? Obviously, there was a little bit of schoolboy talk, but he never really looked like an option. And even in this past couple weeks, it comes out that the Tigers wanted our 5 top prospects for 1 year of schoolboy. I think they did that because they knew that the Mets were going to say no. I think they did that because they expect us to reject that, and they want to say to their fan base, "We tried." So, what was said all off season is probably true, that they really had no interest in trading a schoolboy. And like I mentioned before, a couple of videos ago, if they do, once this hearing happens in a week or so, with his arbitration, and if he wins, there are very few teams that are in on that. So his trade value, I don't think, is going to be where we think it's going, where all the fans think it's going to be, right? You might still have to give up a Jonathan, but much more after that, I don't think so, because he is a rental at the end of the day, 1 year rental. Because he's going to hit he's going to be a free agent next year, and he's a Boris client, so he's going to hit a free agency. So that's not somebody that you give up a lot of capital for. But you would say, but Peralta, we gave up a lot of capital for. And yes, but we also got Tobias Myers on that, right? And Tobias Myers, for a lot of people, is the same as Sproat. So if you look at Sproat for Myers and Williams for Peralta, it's not as big as we think it is. So, but you say we gave up Jet Williams for him. We gave up 2 top 100 prospects. But here's the thing, even though I've said in the past that Jet Williams, if Simeon is having a bad year, he would take over at the end of the year, towards the end of the year. That was me saying, well, there's still a chance for Jet Williams. But at the end of the day, like most people have said, he was expendable once we got the once we got the Simeon trade, because there was no room for Jet Williams. So, giving up Jet Williams, not a big deal. So, I think that's where we were. There was no room for Jet Williams, right? His ceiling is potentially, if he develops the right way, is potentially, what would you say? A poor man's Altuve, right? That's the phrase. And so, if he's a poor man's Altuve, then we lose out on the deal, right? But his projections are that he's going to be a solid player, but not somebody that's going to be an all-star or a superstar. He potentially could become an all-star. Who knows? But as a player that is along the Brewers mold, a guy that can play multiple positions, and a guy that could definitely take over for either second base or shortstop if it doesn't pan out. So it's okay. I'm not too upset. I like Jet Williams, but not that much. I like Peralta better. He's a guy. Now everybody's saying he's our ace, and yes, he's our ace, but he's not an ace. He's a solid number 2, and a 2 that is durable. right? He posts every time, and that's what we were looking for. We were looking for a guy that we can rely on, not necessarily an ace, because that the only ace out there. There's only a few aces out there, and the only real ace that was quote unquote available, and we could debate that all day long, is Kubel. That was the only ace available. Because even Dylan Cease is a solid number two. He's not an ace as well. So we got our guy. Now the question is the rotation complete? And I think this is where we're going to spend our time on, because we got a 6-man rotation as it stands. Because they're going to let, Peterson is definitely going to be a starter. Mania is going to be at the back of the rotation, and so is Senga. Clay Holmes is going to give another shot. He led the, not led the, that's I almost misspoke there, but he was one of the top leaders in ERA last year. Even though us Mets fans don't want to, can't even believe that, but he was, and so he's going to get a shot to start again. And so we have a 6-man rotation right now. What does that mean? That means one or two things. Either we're going into the season with a 6-man rotation, or again, there's something else coming, right? What that can be, I have no idea. I didn't see Bichette coming because of Simeon. I didn't see Robert coming because of Chicago. And I had a little bit of confidence with Peralta, but, with the Yankees being in it, not that their farm system is better than the Mets, because it's not, but there were rumors that Milwaukee wanted to send him to the American League. They didn't want him in the National League. And who has the best shot of getting him out of the teams that were rumored interested in Peralta, that's not in the National League? And that was the Yankees. That was the only team from the American League that was rumored to have interest with Peralta, and so that that whole thing is, and we were waiting it out. I think that once the Braves got into it, I think we had a little bit more sense of urgency. Right, we had a little bit of sense of urgency on that. We wanted him not to go to the Braves, obviously, and so that's, I think, when the deal really got done. And here's the thing: Stearns doesn't lie to you. He says exactly what he wants to do. He tells you exactly what he's going to do. Earlier in the day, he was talking about that he wanted to add a pitcher, and that's what he did. He added a pitcher. And so, we got to start believing what Stern says. Because he doesn't lie to you. He tells you exactly what he's about to do, what he's going to do. And some people are saying that he didn't have a plan, but obviously Stearns has a plan. He tells you exactly what he wants to do. We may not like it, but he always has a plan, and it's time for us to start trusting Stearns and believing in what he's got, and believing that he's a guy that is going to do what he says. Right now, let's speculate what that next trade could be. Can we be a team that revisits San Diego for to continue to further solidify the bullpen, and maybe have talks on Mason Miller? That's a possibility. I don't know. I don't know what San Diego's thinking right now. Yu Darvish just announced his potential. He recanted, but um, he recanted in a way that still left the door open for him to retire. So I'm thinking. I know Bob took an L. Bob Nightingale took an L on that, but um, I still think that it's a potential that he may retire. And here's the question: or not retire, because these things, some type of buyout with the insurance, because he can't pitch anymore. And that's probably why he came out and recanted, not because he is not going to pitch anymore. It's more because he wants to make sure he gets his money. Luckily for the teams, these things are insured, and potentially they can get out of these contracts sooner rather than later, instead of dragging the player along to just because the player wants to continue potentially receiving that money because he's under contract. So who knows what they're thinking now, though. And then go back to the Mason Miller. That's a potential trade right there, trade partner, because this team, I think we're going into this team pretty set, but I still question the Mark Vientos on the bench. I just don't see it. I don't see how that can happen. I think that Mark Vientos is probably that guy that's going to be traded. I don't think Beatty is going to be traded for. I know there are more people that are thinking about Brett Beatty versus Mark Vientos, obviously, because Brett Beatty can play defense. Mark Vientos has a hard time doing that. And so, what's the trade? I would, obviously our lineup is pretty set, unless the only thing I can think about is if you are thinking about not giving Carson Bench an opportunity to win the spot in the lineup. That's the only thing I can think about, right? Because if you look at the lineup, it's pretty much set. You got Polanco at first, / Brett Beatty. You got Simeon at second, Bichette at third, Lindor at short, Robert in center, Soto in right, and Alvarez at catcher. So that leaves left field. And right now, penciled in there is Carson Bench / Brett Beatty. I think Brett Beatty's only listed at there more if Carson Bench doesn't pan out to win that spot. But if we take Stearns at his word, Carson Bench is going to get every shot to win that spot. So I don't think we're trading for an outfielder, because they want to give Bench the shot. But there has to be a trade. Is it a trade that involves Senga? So we go to a 5-man rotation. And if it involves Senga, are we looking for relief help, or are we looking to stock up in our system again? This is crazy that we would be talking about this in January, but it's one of those things that there has to be one more move. It just doesn't make sense to me that both we go into spring training with both Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos. It just doesn't make any sense. I also think that um, Marte, Sterling Marte might get another shot with the Mets to be that guy that comes in and plays when there's a really strong lefty on the mound, so Carson Bench doesn't have to face him. The question is, do the Mets believe that starting Marte his legs can hold up and hold up for however long they expect him to be? Because I think he knows at this point of his career that one, he's not signing a big contract, right? Because he can't play the field, or he can't play the field much, and so I think he would be a guy that is willing to sit on the bench and be happy and take pictures with the team, you know, whenever they hit home runs. I think he'd be perfect for that. You know, a lot of people were talking about Austin Hayes as potential being that guy, but I don't think Hayes wants to be a backup. I think Hayes wants to be a starter. So I think Marte would be perfect to just finish the beginning of this beginning of the year at least, right? Because he's not going to sign a big contract. So I predict that Marte will be back with the Mets as the number 26 man on the active roster. You know, not only because he's friends with Soto, but he's still a good righty bat off the bench that I think has a lot to give as that 26 man. I think Marte's going to be back, but I still think there's one more trade, whether that's for a bullpen piece or to restock the system. I'm not sure how it's going to look because I just don't see Mark Vientos being on the bench or Brett Beatty being on the bench. You know, because they want to use Brett Beatty as that super utility player. But guys, I think I'm going to end it there. You know, I'm excited for the season. I think this lineup is looking pretty tough. I think this lineup is going to score a lot of points. I think Robert is going to have an excellent season. I think he's going to be revitalized, being not only out of Chicago, but being in this lineup without the pressure, because right now he's slated to be at the bottom of the order, 6, 7, somewhere around there, you know, behind Polanco and Simeon, and maybe even behind Brett Beatty or Alvarez. I don't know, but I think that he is going to be revitalized on this roster, and we're going to see we're going to be happy with what we see from Robert. And Peralta, he's going to be our opening day starter going against Paul Skeens, and so that's going to be an awesome game to watch. You know, Paul Skeens potentially the number one pitcher in baseball right now. You know, for some people that's Skubal. For me, that's Skeens. And so Skeens Peralta matchup on opening day. I can't wait to see it. Excited for it, and I can't wait. But guys, let me know how you're feeling. Let me know how you're thinking on replay. Are you liking the moves? Are you liking this lineup? Do you think the Mets are going to make another move? If you do think the Mets are going to make another move, what move is it? Let me know your thoughts. And a reminder again, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and until the next time, let's go Mets.